It seems to me that even when it feels tough and you might be burnt out, you might be wondering if it's meant to be part of your path, but there's still a level of that soul knowing where you know you can't let this go. While I do believe it is very possible to flip a switch and have an instant shift in your energy, that has happened to me before. It's a lot more likely with most things in our lives that we're going to have to do some work. Welcome to the Fire Within podcast, helping you to have confidence in who you really are and ignite the spark within you into a full burning soul-led fire. My name is Carrie Jokala. I am your host. I am a Reiki master teacher, a fitness instructor, a wife, a mom to 2 little boys, and this is episode 217. And today we're going to expand a little bit more on the root chakra ideas that we talked about in the last episode. And we're going to talk about being in soul alignment or soul separation. And once again, I speak in this episode not from a look at me, I've got it all figured out position, but rather a come with me position. Things I've been learning, things I've been moving through, and just want to share in the hopes that it helps you. Most of us, maybe it's not most, I don't know, many of us are trying to find our soul's purpose. We're trying to figure out why we're here. And a lot of us have a hard time doing that. I know I struggled for a very long time trying to figure out what I'm meant to do. I knew I was here for big things. I knew that I was meant to help people in some capacity, but I just could never figure out what that is. And I don't have a secret for you, but really what I've found is the things that feel closest to my soul purpose came into my life without me forcing them to arrive. They just kind of showed up. For example, you may have heard before the story of how I got started learning Reiki. When the student is ready, the teacher will appear. My Reiki teacher literally appeared in my Facebook feed in a group that we were both in doing a live video, and there was an instant connection. Long story short, I followed her and found out that she taught Reiki. It was something I had thought about getting certified in for a long time, but never ended up doing anything about, and it just felt right. Same thing with fitness, how I got into teaching fitness classes and then eventually also becoming a personal trainer. When I first got certified, I had never even taken a group training class, a group exercise class in the gym. I'd been in the gym. I worked out in a gym, but I'd never taken a class. I'd only ever done videos and had a slight inkling that I might be good at breaking down and teaching different exercises, different choreography, because I started with choreographed classes. And it was just fun for me. It was something that I was excited to go do. I had no way of knowing if I would actually be good at it. It just felt right. Both of those things for me were basically a soul knowing, especially the Reiki. There was something just lit up in me about that. But even so, even finding those things, so the road, especially in the beginning, was never easy. Still not easy. I think I've got the fitness thing sort of figured out, but it's been 14 and a half years since I got certified, 14 years since I got hired and started teaching, and Reiki is a lot newer. I started learning that in 2020, so still technically a fledgling business in that sense, a newer skill of mine, but something that you can learn also, FYI, little nudge, if that's something you'd like to learn. I do teach Reiki as well, so feel free to reach out about that. Whether or not I have any group classes going at the time that you hear this episode, we can always do a one-on-one. But with soul alignment and soul separation, and that sounds a little harsh to say soul separation, but just basically being out of alignment with what you're here to do, your soul contract, so on and so forth. Soul alignment doesn't necessarily mean that everything is easy, but you have this inner knowing, most likely that you just can't explain logically. I couldn't explain either one of those, fitness or Reiki, logically as to why I suspected I would be good at either one of them. No evidence whatsoever for either one of those. It was just this knowing on a soul level. I could just tell it was on a soul level, and I couldn't logically explain why. There was no way to put it into words. But other clues can be that you're feeling joyful, you're feeling happy, you look forward to whatever it is you're doing that you believe is in alignment with your soul purpose. It doesn't fully block any challenges or hard times from coming, but there's a trust that you just know is there, and it keeps you going. And even if that fire burns out briefly or you get burned out, which I certainly did in the fitness aspect, I got burned out pretty quickly because I was a little too excited. And I was looking for every possible opportunity to teach. And at the time, I was only teaching pre-choreographed classes, and they were all classes in that sense where there was constant choreography, which meant I had to do each class with my class every time I taught. There was no coaching option. Unless you had seasoned veterans in your class who would know exactly what you meant without you doing it. I was not at that point. And these formats that I was teaching were brand new as well to the people who were taking them in my classes. But because of that, I think I was teaching at up to 3 different places at once, teaching almost every day, I think. Some days I taught 2 classes in a row. And at the time, I don't think I had any that were back to back at the same place. I did eventually later on, but I would go teach at one place and then go drive to the next and then go teach at that place. And this was all after working my full-time job. And I got very burnt out. And I started to wonder if this was even really supposed to be part of my path. I wasn't looking forward to all of my classes. Some I still were, and it had nothing to do with the people, but when you are also a new instructor, and I was teaching at a couple, you could call them boutique studios, those are harder to find people to fill up your classes. So no matter how much you love and enjoy the people who do show up to your classes, it gets disheartening when it doesn't grow. That on top of teaching so often, so much, getting physically burnt out as well. But I really didn't want to let go of it. It still felt on some level, that soul level most likely, that it was something I was meant to do. Something that I enjoyed, something that was a way for me to bring joy and fun to other people, to share that part of my purpose, to share that part of my light. And I eventually learned that I just needed to pull back and be more mindful of my energy expenditure. I didn't quite realize the emotional and spiritual energetic side of it yet, but definitely the physical was talking to me. But again, I speak not from a position of being an expert, but just from my own experience. It seems to me that even when it feels tough and you might be burnt out, you might be wondering if it's meant to be part of your path, but there's still a level of that soul knowing where you know you can't let this go, then you keep going and you find a way. You might not find the answer right away, but you find a way. Being out of soul alignment, being in more of a soul separation, I think the most relevant way I can describe this is when it was mentioned to me about, and I think I did talk about this on the podcast a few episodes ago, wanting to lose the extra baby weight. and struggling, even as a fitness professional who knows what to do. I don't know if I just wasn't focused enough, or actually I'm starting to get the answers now that I'm doing 75 hard, but that's going to be a whole separate episode. So I'm not going to go all the way into that right now. But nonetheless, at the time, for a long time, for the last few years, nothing was budging. No matter what I did, I couldn't seem to make any changes. And I don't care about the number on the scale. I really don't. But I would hop on the scale once in a while. And I haven't really in years on my own. But I was checking just as a marker to just see if anything was moving. And I don't remember who specifically said it to me, but it was another friend who's very intuitive, and mentioned something that because of my basically kind of hatred for how my body had been looking and a long-standing dislike of my torso area, that obviously not completely, but to some degree, perhaps my soul just wasn't feeling safe in my body because I was projecting so much dislike towards my body. And that might seem a little woo-woo, a little out there, but maybe if you're here, it doesn't because you're here. But it did make sense when people make energetic and emotional shifts, which is still energy. When people make those kinds of shifts, you've probably heard stories like that where all of a sudden the weight just starts to fall off. And I'll get into a little bit more of that with my 75 hard story coming up in a future episode. But that soul separation, when you are out of alignment with your soul, maybe you've gone down a path, career-wise, relationship-wise, whatever, any aspect, any part of your life, and you're feeling stuck. You constantly feel drained. Maybe all you can think about is getting out, finding a new job, finding a new whatever. And it's a constant drain on your energy. You never look forward to it. There's no spark, like not even the tiniest spark. I would say that's a sign of soul separation. But obviously your soul is still there. The essence of who you are is still there. There's nothing wrong with you. You're not broken. You didn't mess anything up. You just need to refocus, shift your energy, get yourself back into soul alignment. And the other thing I wanted to touch on is these quick fixes that you see. So if, for example, you hear that story about how someone makes an energetic shift and all of a sudden the weight just starts to fall off, or someone makes one mindset shift where they find this one meditation or this one energy work format, and just like that, their lives were changed and everything started to work out, and they got the new job they were hoping for, or their business took off, or they found the right relationship, the right person came into their life, and it was just magical and it was instant. I'm not denying people's truths. I know that that can happen. I'm not denying that. But I don't want that to dishearten you if you go in and try to make these changes for yourself and you don't see or feel an immediate shift. Because I know I've been there. I see other people doing things where it seems like they have this instant overnight success, and there's a part of me that's like, what the hell? Why can't I do that? Where am I messing up? But here's the thing. I don't mean to keep referencing 75 hard, but there's going to be so much that's a lot more relevant than you might suspect from an episode on 75 hard. So I can't wait to do that one. We'll probably put that one out next week. But here's my point. While I do believe it is very possible to flip a switch and have an instant shift in your energy, that has happened to me before. It's a lot more likely with most things in our lives that we're going to have to do some work. Our soul's there. It's not going anywhere. It's still us. It's still our true essence. It's just waiting for us to basically catch up with our human avatar. But it's likely for our brains to get in the way, for too much logic to take over. I am a big fan of logic. But there also needs to be a level of trust in our energy, in the spiritual side, in miracles. And depending on what you're trying to fix in your life, what you're trying to change in your life, and what your mindset and your energy have been around that issue, it could take a lot of work. For some people, it can be a fairly instant switch, but it depends on how much there is to sort through, how much there is that needs to be changed in your beliefs about yourself, about what's possible. And it's hard. This is not easy work. I think it's fun, but fun in the sense that the results are what's fun. It's amazing to see the changes. It's amazing to see the sparks show up of putting puzzle pieces together, figuring out what the blockages have been, what has been holding you back, what you should probably really be focusing on to move yourself forward. So especially in today's world, we all crave that instant switch, that instant fix in our energy that's just going to magically change everything. And then tomorrow we'll wake up and we'll have all the money in our bank account and we'll have the best job and the best home and all of the things we've been trying to manifest. But in reality, it's going to take some work. And we don't have to be ready to face everything. But we have to be willing to at least take the first steps and willing to look at what our obstacles have been, what our energetic blockages have been, how we're getting most likely in our own way. And I am just as guilty of that as everybody else. So again, not speaking from a position of expert or having it all figured out, but just a come with me. This is what I've figured out so far. But I guess the thing I want you to know is that it's possible. No matter how much work there might appear to be ahead of you to make these changes, it's possible. And when you start doing the work, when you start facing up to these things, the shifts can happen faster and faster. The recovery from the slip-ups can happen faster and faster. Trust me, I know on that one. You just got to be willing to show up for yourself. You have to be willing to trust your soul nudges. And that can be scary when most of us have spent so much of our lives being told that we shouldn't trust the nudges, that we should only seek logic, that we should only look outside of ourselves for answers, for confirmation. And I know it's cliche, but the answers really are within you if you can learn how to sit down and listen. And I know it's hard for a lot of us to slow down. We don't want to. We don't think we can. On some level, maybe we're afraid to because we don't want to deal with what we suspect might come up. But it's the only way to move forward. This is why I want to encourage you to join me in my next program called Rise, where we're going to take what I started in the last episode about you are not your root chakra. And we're going to go through each chakra, starting with the root. And we're going to do a focused Reiki session each week on one specific chakra every week. We'll have some discussion about what that chakra deals with, how it might be showing up in your life, both positively and in the form of a blockage that needs to be cleared and faced up to. And then we'll also have a day of integration where we can come and have some more discussions, some Q&A, talk about things that may have come up, things that may have shifted, and how to deal with it and continue working through the changes that are going to come from each of those sessions. Because I won't lie to you, it could possibly bring up some stuff. So if you're ready to take a look at that, I would love to be your guide. It's going to be a 7-week program. We're going to meet twice a week. It is okay if you can't be there for everyone. It's highly encouraged that you are there live, but time is not linear, so you won't miss out on anything. But I would love to have you there for all of it, especially also the integration days so you can ask questions live. But I'm opening up for pre-sale right now. I'm going to start with an opening ceremony on Monday, January 29th, and then we will meet twice a week from that point on. And pre-sale price, so this is a 7-week live program. Pre-sale I'm putting at $444. And if you need a payment plan, just reach out and ask me. I have one option already up there. If you need something else, I'm more than happy to work with you. So just reach out and send me a message. And I got to move on this, but I want to put together another free experience prior to this program officially starting. And it's going to be the Fire Within 2.0. We're going to talk about those soul nudges, why you're here, what you're meant to do, how to ignite that spark, how to keep it going. And then we move into the Rise program, and we're going to actually do the work and move you through all of it. Answers and clarity can and will start to come to you through these sessions. So head on over to the website, check that out. I don't have anything up for the free experience yet, but you can take a look at the Rise program if you go to carriejokala.com/rise, and you'll see all the information there. And you can feel free to reach out and ask any questions that you have, either on social media or right through my website. I hope that this was helpful. I hope that some of this resonated with you, that it sparked something within you, pun kind of intended. And if it did, please share this episode and help it to reach more people. You can share it on your social media. If you share it to Instagram, please be sure to tag me at @IamCarrieJoKala. Or you can absolutely highly encourage to just send it directly to a friend or family member that you think needs to hear this with you. And if you are so inclined, it also really helps the show if you would leave a 5-star rating and a positive review. I'm so grateful that you're here. Thank you so much for listening, and I will see you next time.